Hey everybody, welcome back to On Stage, Off Stage. I'm your host, George Sapio, and this is episode number 146, October of 2021. We are presenting the very last in our 2021 series of plays featuring roles for women over 50. This episode, we are proud to present The Fugitive by Ken Levine. The roles are Valerie, played by Nancy Kane, and Tom, played by John Frascia. The setting is Tom and Valerie's living room. The TV is on.
The Fugitive.
Holy shit, The Fugitive is on.
QM Productions.
Boy, that's when you know we have 6,000 channels.
Okay, it is on channel 982, but that's not the point. I loved The Fugitive when I was a kid.
You and my parents.
Now there was a premise. Dr. Richard Kimball, falsely accused of murdering his wife, escapes and runs around the country searching for a one-armed man he saw leave the scene, relentlessly pursued by Lieutenant Gerard. Brought to you by Fritos.
You want to watch a 50-year-old program?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Keep searching. Maybe you'll find a Today Show from 1953.
Don't worry, you'll still get in your 6 hours a day of NCIS.
Watch The Fugitive.
The key to enjoying this is just losing yourself. Be transported to another place, another time.
Another dress size. God, we're old.
You're not old.
This was 50 years ago and we remember it. We're American Gothic.
No one remembers the details. Oh, wow, Tuesday Weld. What are you doing?
Checking to see how old she was then.
No, just immerse yourself.
It'll only take a second.
She was born in 1943, so 22.
Hey, how would you just know that?
Immerse yourself. You're not immersing.
You still have a thing for Tuesday Weld? What porn do you watch late at night?
She's a marvelous actress.
Uh-huh. What year was Judi Dench born?
Valerie.
Sorry. David Jansen's a good-looking guy.
The Fugitive? You really think so?
I don't have his birth date memorized, but yeah.
He died young, you know.
I wasn't planning on contacting him.
Can we just watch? We're missing all the story turns.
What story turns? Every week it was the same thing. He changes his name, he takes a crappy job, he almost gets caught, but at the last minute, some person he operated on in a ditch helps him escape. Now brought to you by Humira.
There's more than that. He's searching for the one-armed man.
So why doesn't he just flee to Tahiti, tent bar, and pay a private detective to look for him?
Because the detective won't know the right one-armed man.
He can take photos. It's not like the guy had two arms but looked sort of Jewish.
Yeah, like there are 72 murders a week in the Navy that only NCIS can solve.
They also have jurisdiction over the Marines, Tom. But I will stop now. We can watch quietly and appreciate all the story turns.
Thank you. Oh, that sheriff. Who is that guy? We've seen him in a million things.
Tom takes out his iPhone and starts tapping on the screen.
Tuesday's taking off her mittens. You're missing it.
IMDb is amazing. Yep, got it. Andrew Tomlinson. Let me see what else he's done. Ah, The Drug Mule on Hawaii Five-0. Oh, Jesus.
What?
He was 56 years old when he died.
How old was David Jansen?
Yikes, 48.
You're kidding.
Heart attack.
Poor guy. The show was probably what killed him.
What?
Well, every week he was wading through swamps or out running dogs. Look, there he is carrying Tuesday Weld up a mountain. She may be 95 pounds, but believe me, by take 6, she was a piano.
He can't be under that much strain. He's smoking.
How come he never changes his appearance?
Huh?
Well, you'd think he'd grow a beard, wear glasses. No wonder he's always spotted. He could make extra cash going to crime conventions signing his wanted posters.
The man has dimples, Valerie. No leading man who has dimples ever wears a beard. I swear, you know nothing about Hollywood.
Didn't they do a movie of this?
Yeah, with Harrison Ford.
Right. And he had a beard.
A, no dimples.
Yes, he does.
And B, he also jumped off a dam 15,000 feet and survived.
Sure, he's Indiana Jones.
I don't care if he's Wonder Woman, he'd be dead.
You know, now that I think about it, The Fugitive is really just Les Miserables, but without the songs.
What?
A Frenchman escapes prison, the police inspector is after him, and it's the French Revolution, so lots of guys ended up with one arm. Where's Victor Hugo's Emmy?
This is maybe the dumbest conversation we've ever had.
And in the movie, Hugh Jackman had a beard. And dimples.
Maybe Kimball assumed that everyone would think he'd grow a beard, and that's why they'd be looking for. So to stay one step ahead of them, he didn't grow a beard.
Now it's the dumbest conversation we've ever had.
Can we just watch the show? Wow, Ymer does sponsor it.
They go back to watching. After a couple of beats, Tom starts tapping on his iPhone again.
Christ. The guy playing the deputy, he was 60 when he died.
What do you care?
Don't you find it a little strange? All these people died at an early age?
Not all. Tuesday Weld is still alive. There's still hope for you and her when it's lights out at the senior center.
The desk clerk lasted until 87, but the ranch hand was only 59 when he died.
The third leading cause of death in 1965, appearing on The Fugitive.
It's not funny.
Life expectancy wasn't as high back then.
Right, but it wasn't 59. That's like they filmed the show next to a nuclear reactor.
Tom, everybody smoked back then and drove without seatbelts and ate White Castle. And how many of those people would have lived another 20 years if they had the medical advances we have now? So relax.
It's like we're all fugitives.
What?
Trying to escape time. Lieutenant Gerard is time, and the one-armed man is White Castle.
That's it. No more shows before 2007.
Beards and disguises won't help. We can't hide from Lieutenant Gerard.
Tom, you're getting crazy.
No, you were right, Val. We are old.
We are not.
People we thought were old, but were actually young, are dead, and we're older than them. So where does that leave us?
Well, you apparently in skilled nursing and me in Hawaii.
Why can't you just be scared shitless like me? Just once.
Because I'd rather be grateful. We are still here, and we're healthy. Well, aside from all the usual bullshit we get at this age, but healthy enough. I don't know about you, but I plan on being around a lot longer. Lieutenant Gerard is not going to get me. I wear a Fitbit. Trust me, in 20 years, we'll be longing for the days we were this age.
You know what? That's true. That's
Absolutely.
very true.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was then. This is now.
Right?
We've been given a gift.
We have, yes.
In a sense, we're young.
We are young.
65 is the new 57.
Okay.
Thank you, Valerie. God, this is such a relief. We're young.
And we get senior discounts.
We can do anything. Hell, we can even go to Disneyland. That's how young we are.
Right. Really?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to Disneyland. It'll be fun. Screw you, Lieutenant Gerard. Yeah, I'm the fugitive, but the movie Fugitive. And this time my new fake name will be Indiana Jones. What?
Well, I was just thinking, you know, on that Indiana Jones ride, they have that sign that says, "This is a turbulent, violent attraction, and if you have heart problems or you're over 65, it's not recommended."
Yeah.
Harrison Ford can no longer go on the Indiana Jones ride.
Okay, we're old. We are so old.
We are not.
We're ancient. We're fossils. What else is on? Where's the remote? Oh, I think I hurt my back. Yeah, I do need Humira.
That was The Fugitive by Ken Levine. The roles were played by Nancy Kane as Valerie and John Frascia as Tom. Ken Levine is a Emmy-winning writer, director, producer, and has a career that spanned more than 30 years. He's worked on some of the most incredibly famous TV shows like MASH, Cheers, Frasier, The Simpsons, Everybody Loves Raymond, Dharma and Greg. Ken has also been the radio and TV play-by-play voice of the Baltimore Orioles, the Seattle Mariners, San Diego Padres, and Dodger Talk. He's also got his podcast, Hollywood and Levine. What made you write this play, and why The Fugitive? Because there were so many television shows back in the day. How did The Fugitive make the cut?
Well, I always liked The Fugitive, and I saw one day on Amazon where I could get the complete collection of The Fugitive for like $40. So I bought it, and my wife and I just sat down and started watching it. And I would see an actor on there who looked familiar, and I'm thinking, where did I see that character actor before? So I had my phone with me, and I would go to my IMDb page, and I would look up that particular episode and see, oh, okay, that guy was in Cool Hand Luke, or, oh yeah, that guy was on Hawaii Five-0. Then I also started noticing their ages, and how quite a few of them like died in their 50s and 60s. And so this kind of became a thing with me. And so The Fugitive sprang from that. But there's a lot of reality. It's really kind of me and my wife, me being the neurotic one, looking at these people and going, oh my God, he only lived to be 62. And my wife saying, just enjoy the show. What are you doing? So that's kind of how The Fugitive came to be.
My wife and I do the same thing. I'll recognize somebody and say, oh, wait, hold on. That was the doorman in such and such a movie. And my wife will look at me and she goes, 200 years ago, they would have like burned you at the stake for doing things like that. How do you know all this stuff?
Years ago, before the internet, you wouldn't know, and it would just drive you crazy for 4 days. Like, where have I seen that guy? Yeah. And now, of course, you can just go, oh, right. Yeah, he was the doorman. Sure. Sure. And then you sleep well.
It's actually kind of fun spotting people from movies and TV series way back that are now either recurring or they're just kind of making it big, or but they've been around forever.
It's fun for me too, because a number of these people who started out as actors decided to go into other fields like producing and directing and writing. And so every so often I'll see an old episode of TV and I'll go, oh my God, that's Burt Metcalf, who was the producer of MASH, who I worked with for years. But there he is, 20 years old, as an actor on Gidget.
Wow.
So that's really kind of fun.
Yeah, that is kind of fun because you don't remember the plot of the actual episode. You just remember Burt Metcalf was in it.
Right. And Gene Reynolds, who was one of the creators of MASH, Gene just passed away last year at like 93, 94. But he was one of the kids in the MGM stable, along with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland and Jackie Cooper and those people. And I mean, here's a guy who I know, I knew him from when he was like 50 on, but you know, I see him in a movie and there he is, he's 11.
Yeah. And once you know it, you can actually start to see the resemblance too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you wonder, what must that be like for him to look at that
Yeah.
and see, wow.
Yeah. I think we're both, or some of us are of an age now where we remember ourselves as 17. And then when we pass a mirror, it's like, who is that guy?
Exactly. No, I'm still 17.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, my wife will probably say I'll be 17 forever, at least maturity wise.
Well,
Hey.
hey, better than 13. I was 13 for at least 40 years.
I was 13. Yeah.
So I'm moving up to 17. Yeah.
Congratulations on graduating
Thank you.
from high school.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've been writing for, I guess, over 30 years now, for all these wonderful TV shows. The Simpsons, one of my faves. Frasier, Cheers, which is, along with MASH. I mean, these are all top-notch TV icons.
It's been over 40 years.
40 years. Okay. Yeah. Everybody loves
I've been
Raymond.
very lucky.
Yes, you have. What was that like? I mean, I can't ask you to encapsulate 40 years into one short interview, but just working with these remarkable people, with the actors, the producing staff, the techies, in all these different genres. That must have been, how did that happen? How did you get a foot in that door?
Well, I started out when I got out of college at UCLA as a top 40 disc jockey. And I bounced around the country playing the hits. And I was kind of Howard Stern before Howard Stern. And I was always getting fired.
Okay.
And what?
Yeah, no.
I was always getting fired because, there would be upheaval at the radio station and a new program director would come in and hear me and go, "You're not funny. Shut up. You're fired." And I got tired of that. And I got tired of playing Kung Fu Fighting 4 times a night. And the night Chicago died and Billy Don't Be a Hero. And I decided to try writing. And, when I was a teenager, talk about how, I'm still 17.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager and I saw the Dick Van Dyke Show, and it was a revelation to me because I was this nerd in school, and I thought, wait a minute, this guy is a comedy writer and he's getting a girl like Laura Petrie. I don't have to throw a spiral to get a girl like Laura Petrie. So maybe there's something to this comedy writing thing. So it was always in the back of my mind to pursue comedy writing. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to do it. I'd never taken a class. And I was in the Army Reserves. And for our summer camp, we were at Fort Carson, Colorado. And I met a new member of the unit, David Isaacs. And we got to talking, and he too wanted to be a writer. And at the time he was working at ABC in Hollywood in the film can division, shipping film, long since obsolete department.
Yeah.
And we decided to, try writing something together. And the first thing we wrote was a pilot, which would have cost probably $70 million in 1973 to produce. We knew nothing, but we had a good time, and it was funny. I had to actually go to Hollywood and buy a script. There was a bookstore that had a remainder table of TV scripts.
Sure,
so I was able to buy an Odd Couple script and a Mary Tyler Moore Show script and see the form. I didn't even know what the format was, where you go, oh, interior WJM day. Huh, yes. Okay, that's how they do it. Yeah. That's how clueless we were. But
you got to learn somewhere.
On it. We kept working on it and writing more and more spec scripts and getting the scripts rejected. And then one day, luck has such a huge impact in this. One day, my mother is playing golf. And one of her partners, one of the people that she's paired up with, is a gentleman named Gordon Mitchell. And Gordon was the story editor of this new show just coming on CBS called The Jeffersons.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Sure.
when he said he was a writer for the Jeffersons, my mom, of course, being a good mom, says, "Oh, my son is a writer and you should read him." And of course, he's thinking, "Oh my God, why did they
Yeah. How many holes left? Yeah.
Yeah. But he said, have him send me a script. And if I like the script, I'll get in touch. And that's what I did. And he did. He liked the script and called me.
Nice.
And invited me and my partner to come in and pitch. And we pitched stories, and long story short, they bought one of them. And that was how we broke in. And once we broke in, then we were able to get a decent agent. We were able to get other assignments, and things worked out to where we got a chance to write an episode of MASH. And when we did a good job on that, that really was our golden ticket. Once we wrote our first MASH, we were off and running. And to answer the second part of your question about working with all of these remarkable people,
Sure.
I have to say, it really is a blessing that throughout my career, there was not a single day when I took it for granted. There was not a single time that I walked on the stage of MASH or Cheers or Frasier and thought to myself, wow, look where I am. Yeah. How lucky am I? How great is this that I'm writing material and Alan Alda is doing it, and Ted Danson and David Hyde Pierce, or in the case of a movie, Tom Hanks and John Candy. It truly was a blessing, like I said. Yeah. And I never took it for granted, not for a single moment. Every day that I drove on to a studio lot, I gave thanks.
Yeah. That's incredible to be able to keep reappreciating your good fortune.
Yeah.
And that is good. Yeah. I mean, as a writer myself, I'm still waiting for the big break. But to imagine my words coming out of their mouths, on a stage or something like that, it would be, I could just end it all now. And I'm here, I've arrived. It's perfect. Thank you.
I mean, they make me so much better a writer than I am. David Hyde Pierce would do things with lines that would get huge laughs. Yeah. And, when I wrote the line, it was just a straight line. It was just something to set up something else.
Right.
But he got a big laugh out of it. And I thank the gods of comedy, and I thank David Hyde Pierce, but very lucky to be writing for these characters and hearing them in your head. And then when it goes down to the stage and you actually hear them do it, they do it as well or better than you even imagined. That as a writer is the ultimate gift.
I would just be sitting there going, I didn't write it that funny. But that's what good actors do. They find ways to make every line count.
Yeah, they really do.
It comes down to, I mean, how good is the actor? Is the actor on stage better than the material? Because I'm enjoying the play, but I'm not really enjoying the actual text, but I'm enjoying the actors doing it.
Well, that's an interesting observation.
Well, it's just one person in the audience.
Right.
But some days it seems like that. And so, did any of these shows represent a step out of your comfort zone? Because you seem to be going all over the place. You've got a 1950s Korean surgical hospital or a MASH unit. And then you're going to, this Tony apartment in modern day United States for Frasier, and all these different places where the nature of the comedy has to be different. All right. Or the nature of the characters is so different. How do you step out of one and seem to just glide so effortlessly, where is my mouth today, into the shoes of someone completely different?
Well, you're right. There are certainly differences between what we call single camera shows like MASH, which are filmed like a movie where there's one camera and they go outside and they'll shoot a scene from 4 or 5 different angles. And then there's multi-camera, which is like Cheers and Frasier. And in those shows, they're like plays, and there are 4 cameras that are filming simultaneously and a studio audience of 250 people. And it's very much like writing a play. And yes, it is very different. We started out doing both, because our first staff job was a multi-camera show in Tony Randall. And then our next staff job was MASH. And I will say this for MASH, in terms of being out of my comfort zone. Had I not been in the Army, had I not been in the Army Reserves,
Sure.
I don't think I could have written that show. Obviously, it was out of my comfort zone in terms of the medical aspect of it. And for that, we had consultants. We had Dr. Walter Schell, we had a nurse on the set to make sure that everything looked realistic. But in terms of just the military thinking and just the whole way that the Army worked, I felt comfortable. I knew that world. I was able to write that world with some authority. Had I not been in the Army, I don't think I ever would have been able to write MASH. Other shows, yes, but not MASH. But it was I will say there definitely was a change when you're used to writing a certain style like MASH, which was very stylized, and then going to Cheers. And it took a week or two to get up to speed, because the writing is a little bit different. There's a lot more of setup jokes on multi-camera shows. And that's not to disparage those kind of jokes, but it's the same thing Neil Simon does when he writes Odd Couple for the stage. But it just took a couple of weeks to sort of get into that rhythm, which is a very different rhythm than MASH.
Yeah. Okay.
That makes any sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, the reason I asked is because MASH is one of my favorite shows, but it's also very specific. It's not your living room comedy or your newsroom comedy where you walk in and you know what's going to happen. With MASH, it was all over the place. It was a comedy one week. It was a drama the next week. It was a tragedy. It was a dream sequences. You never knew what you were getting with that.
We did. We had fun on MASH. We wrote the point of view episode, which was the episode seen through the eyes of the patient. The patient is injured on the battlefield and he's flown to the MASH unit, and through his eyes, you get to see all
that one. Yes.
Aspects of MASH.
Yeah.
And at the time, we pitched that story to the showrunner, Burt Metcalf. We said, look, this is either going to be the best or worst episode of the year. Okay, this will either work and be great, or it will just be horrible, and you're probably going to want to bury it and put it up against the Academy Awards or sometime when no one's watching. And it turned out okay, but that was really fun. You talk about going out of your comfort zone. That was really a fun episode. And the other thing for David and I, in terms of our quote unquote comfort zone, is there was a lot of drama in MASH, and we had never written drama. And when we pitched stories the first time to Gene Reynolds, the one that he responded to was the one where the gas heater blows up and Hawkeye is temporarily blind. And he liked that idea, but he said, there's a lot of drama in that. Have you guys written drama? And we just lied and said, "Oh yeah, you
Of
college
course,
writing
yes.
plays."
Yeah.
Oh, it's like we were going to do anything we could to get that assignment,
Yeah.
and we pulled it off. But yeah, that was out of our comfort zone. We had never written drama before.
Right. I call it stretching your abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a funny thing you mentioned about, we lied about it. Many of the actors I've grown up with and that I've known walk into auditions and the producers go, "By the way, can you speak Swahili?" And then, "Oh, it's my third language." Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Sure. I can ride a horse. Sure.
That one, I had to train somebody to ride a horse so she could, she could get a role. And that's a completely different story. Okay.
It was Death of a Salesman, right?
No,
that was the role. It was Death of a Salesman.
No. It was I can't remember what it was for, but I do remember she had a bit part in Marathon Man. Somebody moved and you could see the side of her face, and that was a big break. I don't know what.
Oh, that was her.
Yeah, that was her. Yes,
that was her. Oh,
yeah. Okay. So you have a podcast, Hollywood and Levine, where, like today, you are speaking to notables and folks in the business. And you've got a couple of hundred episodes so far, 237?
Yeah. I'm on my 5th year and I do it weekly. So I'm at about 230, 33, something like that, depending upon when this particular episode airs.
You put a lot more time into it than I do. I'm on year 10 and I'm up to 146. I do it once a month. Okay, so why did you start the podcast?
Well, I've always been interested in broadcasting from the time I was a kid. Like I said, I had been a disc jockey and then a talk show host and eventually a baseball announcer. And
which I so want to talk about because that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. Okay. And I've always liked broadcasting, and podcasting gives me an opportunity to do that. And podcasts are starting to catch on. So I thought, what the heck? I mean, I've had a blog for 16 years. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, let me expand and do the podcast. And it's really been fun. And I've had a chance to talk with a lot of very interesting people, a lot of the actors from the shows that I've worked on, like Nancy Travis and George Wendt and Harry Gilpin, and other directors like Jim Burrows. And I try to introduce the audience to various comedy writers whose names they know, whose work they have seen for years, but they don't know the person behind them. And so I'm trying to introduce the world to some comedy writers. And I also use the podcast to share some writing advice or to tell war stories. Sometimes it's just for fun. I did a podcast recently where I made fun of all of the bad podcasts that are out there and did a simulated horrible podcast. Ouch. And then there's other times when I'll do commentary tracks on episodes that I either wrote or directed. So it's kind of a pastiche, you might say, but it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, I've been doing it now for 4.5 years.
Yeah, no, it is fun. Like I said, I've been doing this one for 10 years. And, I kind of did it on a dare in the beginning. You should do this because you're a playwright and a director, yada, yada, yada. And I started talking to people from literally all over the world. Playwrights, directors, producers, actors, tech folks, you name it. I've spoken to them, choreographers. And I'm always learning something. And it's always so much fun to just get into conversation and talk shop.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it does give you a chance to meet some interesting people who you otherwise would not have met.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to playwrights from New Zealand. I've had choreographers from LA. I've had lighting designers who were working in Pompeii at some of the old ruins, trying to figure out how to light those things. So yeah,
just use the lights that they did back then.
Moonlight, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, that's not going to fly. We need electrics.
Yeah, I was in Pompeii a few years ago. I don't remember any street lamps.
I've never been there. I'll have to check. But yeah, no, it's the designer at that point had been there, I think, for 2 months already, working on lighting up. I think it was lighting an opera, which was incredibly complex. But again, it's one of those things. And like yourself, we're lucky. We're both lucky. We get to speak to folks who we might not have had the chance to get to know and hear them tell stories and learn a little bit, about the business.
And they are wonderful craftsmen.
Yeah.
They rarely get the credit.
Mm-hmm.
People don't walk out of a play going, man, I love the lighting. But the lighting really enhanced the production. And like I said, there are so many people behind the scenes, from sound to set designers to makeup. And in television, you have all the cameras and audio and editors and people like that. And they are wonderful, dedicated craftsmen that rarely get the attention that they deserve. They don't get the big credits. They don't get the awards.
Yep.
So, it's nice to be able to learn a little bit about what they do and appreciate the work.
Many times they're taken for granted, and the only time they do get noticed is when the electric goes or something.
That's right, when things go wrong. Yeah.
Something, and then all of a sudden they're front and stage, which is highly unfair.
Right.
But it's a credit to them that they are never noticed unless something goes wrong, because what they do is so wonderful and seems to be so seamless.
Right.
Yeah. So last topic before I let you go back to life in LA and all the wonderful things that must be happening out there.
Oh, geez, it's just exciting.
Yeah.
Just, me and Barbara Stanwyck, we're going out to lunch at Chasen's.
Oh, good. Tell her I said hi. It's been so long since we've spoken. You were a play-by-play announcer for baseball.
Yes.
Oh, I still love that. That was one of the great things about once the action started to get going. It was somehow you made it come alive even more than just watching it. There was excitement.
Baseball on the radio is the best. If you have a good announcer, he can really make it exciting. And again, I consider myself a storyteller. Mm-hmm. So it's not just calling balls and strikes. It's like, well, what's the human aspect of this? And what's the big picture of this game? And, what are the goals that the pitcher is trying to achieve, both for the team and for himself? And, when you are in a tight, suspenseful inning, how do you wring the most tension out of that? And there's a lot of downtimes. It's like, how can you be entertaining?
How can you keep talking and still be interesting?
Yeah, exactly. Your team is down 8-1 and it's the third inning. Why should anyone listen to you? Well, they'll listen to you if you're entertaining. They'll listen to you if you have stories. They'll listen to you if you have a personality. Mm-hmm. So that's what I tried to bring, because I couldn't bring my former playing career to the booth because I didn't have one. So that's what I did. And I did the Baltimore Orioles, the Seattle Mariners, and the San Diego Padres. And I also hosted the pre and post Dodger games for 8 years and did some fill-in doing play-by-play for the Dodgers.
So you lived in all these different places.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I also spent 3 years in the minor leagues I was the voice of the Syracuse Chiefs in 1988. And I guess this broadcast is being played in Ithaca.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, maybe 3 people listening might remember me as the voice of the Syracuse Chiefs in 1988 with Dan Horde. And then I spent 2 years in Tidewater, Virginia, as the voice of the Tidewater Tides, the New York Mets AAA affiliate. Yeah. And then there was an opening for the Orioles, and I sent in my tape and was very fortunate and got the job.
That's amazing.
It is. I never thought I would be doing doing the major leagues. Yeah. I mean, I did this for the experience. Like, what's it like to be with a baseball team and travel with them day after day and to be able to describe it on the radio? And it's kind of like an ongoing soap opera.
Sure.
And so I was enjoying the process. I never thought to myself, oh my God, I got to get to the majors. If I don't get to the majors in 2 years, all of this will be for naught. All of this will be a failure. I was enjoying what I was doing.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what we're not taught to do.
Yeah, exactly. And there are some guys who are in the minors who were announcers in AAA baseball when I was there, who are still there. Yeah. Who are still with their teams. And for them, it's like, well, okay, I'm never going to make it to the major leagues, but I'm doing what I love and I'm having a good time. And how many people get to do what they love? So it's not 100% of my dream, but still I get up in the morning and my only responsibility is to go to a baseball park and announce a baseball game. That's not a bad life.
No, that's not a bad life at all.
Not a bad life at all.
You're very See, the thing is, we are not taught to enjoy what we're doing. We are taught to achieve a goal.
Right.
If you don't,
everything is just part of your resume.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of waking up like you do every day, going, "Gee, I get to go back to the baseball field again! Yay!"
Yeah. Exactly.
I have another podcast to do, and I guess this week I get to talk to somebody that I've always admired and never got to speak to before.
Right.
It's remarkable. Good on you. That's fantastic. That's great.
Thanks.
Ken Levine, this has been so much fun speaking with you. I wish we could go on for hours. We probably could, the two of us.
Well, thank you, George. This was really fun, and thank you for doing my play.
Thank you for sending it in. We had a ball with it. Stay well, be safe, and keep writing.
Thank you.
Hey kids, thanks for listening to Onstage Offstage. Onstage Offstage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org and also on iTunes and Spotify. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project of interest or know of someone in the theater who'd make some seriously good chat, by all means, send us a note at info@onstageoffstage.org. I'm George Sapio. Thank you once again for listening. And please, stay safe, be careful, not only for yourself, but for those with whom we all share this rock. And as always, happy theatering to all of you.